Hi guys, just following up with you guys. I just had a chemo session this past Friday. It's now Monday, and I wanted to share a little bit with you guys. I've been promising I'm going to kind of keep you guys abreast of everything that's going on and share the lessons that I have along the way. And the past few times I just have not quite been up to, kind of like making a video. So this time I'm good, thank God. And I just, first want to update you guys a little bit. The last 8 weeks or so between chemo sessions. This was the 6th time I've gone. So the last 6 or 8 weeks rather in between, I've kind of been learning a lot about kind of curtailing my habits and my and the way I do things to help myself along the way, because as some of you may know, some of you may not know, what chemotherapy does is it basically turns off your immune system. So what I had been struggling with for most of this year has been just infection after infection, and I think I had a total of somewhere around 8 or 9 infections and viruses that I've had since February, since starting treatment. So I've definitely made some personal changes, it's like my health routine and things that I've added, probiotics and just, overall dietary changes and, nutrients, that kind of thing that have helped me. I've added some shakes that I'm now having every day to help me along the way, just to kind of like boost my immune system. And I've actually seen some really great success this time around. So where normally I would have this long list of all these things that went wrong, which is what happened the last couple of times where I wasn't really up to sharing. This time I actually have, in the past 6 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks or so, I've had little issues with my overall health, like infections, that kind of thing. So definitely glad that my immune system is being a little bit boosted and supported with these other supplements that I'm taking along the way to help. What I really wanted to share with today is kind of like a lesson that came to me as I'm going through this treatment. It was more something that reminded me of the process I went through personally in order to accept treatment. Then it was kind of like that reminder for me. And so I thought, maybe it's just a reminder for me, because maybe somebody else needs a reminder too. So I just want to share a little bit about a situation. So something really simple, and usually that happens every time I give my son a bath. The other day, we're in the tub, and it's so funny, right? Because every single time that I go ahead and turn off the water, it's like, we fill the tub up to a certain point, and then we turn off the water, and he whines a little bit for a few minutes, like, no, I don't want the water to keep running. Why can't you leave the water on? And then, towards the end of taking a bath, then there's a little switch that stops the water from going down, and it's like a little stopper, right? So I turn the switch down so the water can start to go down. And those last, I want to say, like 2 minutes or so while the water is going down, it was just really something that happened this time that just stuck out to me more than it has in the past. And so I wanted to share on it, because I feel like something came to me, like the Lord really spoke to me through that. And so I wanted to share that lesson with you all. So he's here. And the first minute or so, he's just whining. He's a typical 3-year-old. 3-year-olds whine. It's what they do. And so he's whining. He's like, "Mommy, why? I don't want to get out. The water's going." And then for that's for about 1 minute, and then the next minute, he's I actually see him. He's taking his little hands and he's trying to pull the water away from the drain, like he's going to stop this water from going down this drain. And it was a little bit funny. I laughed a little bit. I'm like, "Baby, you're not ever going to stop that water from going down that drain." But he tried really hard. I mean, he gave it his all, right? So it was kind of interesting, but I just felt at that moment that something, really profound happened for me, as far as like a clarity for me. And I wanted to share that with you all. And it's just basically, like, as I'm sitting there watching this 3-year-old kid, fight with water, like, no, don't go down the drain. I'm realizing that God is like, how many times are you like that? How many times am I like that? How many times are we like that as people, right? God puts a situation in front of us, and we just start running the opposite direction. And we just start saying, no, I don't want to do that. Or, nope, that can't be right, because it's not ideal, right? So all this water goes down the drain, and he has whined. He spent his last 2 minutes that he could have been playing in the water, whining and finding this water from going down the drain. And it was just like this light went on in my head. It's like, how many times have I done that? How many times have I had this sense kind of like fight, and I just want to stop something from happening that is just kind of inevitable. I'm not talking about, like things that we have control over, because there's a lot of things in life that we do have control over. And in a lot of ways, our health is something we do have control over. But, there's a certain point sometimes where we just try to take control over things that we have no business taking control over, that God has already kind of put in a certain direction, and it could be, we're trying to fight for a relationship and trying to keep a relationship that we know is not right for us to be in, or we're trying to fight to keep a job that we know that it wasn't right for us, or that, it was just time for us to move on. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you're in a situation in life, you're living somewhere, and it's just like that piece of your life is over, and that door, God has been talking to you and like showing you that it's time to move on from that place into something new, into something different. And rather than just saying, okay, God, what are we ready for? Let me embrace this. We kind of have this tendency to just fight the water, to just be just like that little 3-year-old in the bathtub, pushing the water away from the drain. Like, no, God, well, maybe if I stop this, maybe there's something I can do that's going to make this relationship become better, or that's gonna make this job last longer, or that's gonna make this living arrangement work better for me, and there's something that I'm gonna do that's gonna stop this, even though in your heart that it's time. For me, I've come to that a couple of times in my life. One of those times being when I had to start treatment, where I actually did fight with my doctor. I said, give me some time, let me try and manage this on my own. And I definitely did supplements and all that, and adding to the medication regimen that I already had. And it was just like, like nothing was working until that moment that I had, a time with God, where God just showed me, and he sent somebody my way to say, basically, look, it's time for you to move on into this new phase, and it's a step of faith, and it's not something you want, but come on this journey and see what happens. And I think that the more we fight those things, when you really have a sense inside you that it's time to move forward, and the more you fight to stay back in something, the less productive you can be, and the more you're just like that little kid that's just fighting the water, that's just saying, let me try and make this last a little bit longer, let me try, I can stop this from happening. And I think that one of the reasons, and I just want to touch on one little piece here, one of the reasons why we do that just as human beings is because we don't like change. And sometimes what we're stepping into seems like it's a lot more risky than what we already know. And change is hard. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. It's difficult to think about starting from scratch again, or in a relationship, or having to start a new career, or having to start a new, like after you've put so much effort into something, seeing that, what, my effort, sometimes it's a release of saying, well, my effort wasn't enough to make this last. And sometimes it's not, but sometimes it's just God's timing, and it's just saying, okay, God, you must have something better for me. And a lot of times we just don't see that. And so what ends up happening is we just fight. We just fight with that water, and we frustrate ourselves, and we still end up in the same place, right? Because just like my little 3-year-old son, he frustrated himself, he exhausted himself fighting with this water, but he still ended up in the same exact circumstance. And that circumstance was just, he had to come out of the tub. The water was done. But on the other side of that, it's like, now we could get out of the tub, we can get our pajamas on, and we can have story time, which is something he really, really loves, like sitting down and reading books. And that's something that, for that moment, sometimes there's something really good on the other side of that change, but for that moment, you're just trapped in this, and you forget that there's something good on the other side of this, and you just fight and fight and fight, and you're exhausting yourself, trying to fight what's meant to happen anyway. And so I just want to share something with you about a couple people that didn't fight. I I was definitely a person that fought for a few months, and then finally when God opened my eyes really clearly that this was the course of action, my medical treatment, getting on chemo, was the course of action that I needed to take. I finally threw my hands up and said okay, and to this day I still have some people saying, hey, wait a minute, but why didn't you try this first, and why didn't you do that first? And of course, there's a lot of things that people don't know, that all the different things that I have tried, but the bigger picture here is that this was my time. It was my time to let go and see and go where God was leading me. And I'm absolutely certain that this was a path that I had to take for my own well-being, for the well-being of my family, and for the things that I needed, to do. And I feel like, I probably never would have opened up this way and been as open and sharing as much of my life with all of you if I had continued to fight, which is my nature, just to fight, to stay where I am. But I want to share something really quickly, and I don't know if all of you know the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the Bible. If you haven't read it, it's in Daniel chapter 3. And in Daniel chapter 3, basically they're told that, hey, you have to bow to the statue that the king made, or else we're going to throw you into the fire, and that's what we're going to do. And something that really stood out to me, I'm just going to read it for you, because I think that this is where some of us kind of get caught up. In the fear of change. And this is something that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it says, they answered King Nebuchadnezzar, which was the king who told them that they were going to get thrown into a fire if they didn't obey. Their answer to him was, your threat means nothing to us. If you throw us in the fire, the God we serve can rescue us from your roaring furnace and anything else you might cook up, O king. But even if he doesn't, it wouldn't make a bit of a difference. We still wouldn't serve your gods or worship the gold statue you set up. And I think that this is sometimes where we get caught up, right? Is that we want to have faith. We want to believe that things are going to be better. But letting go of what you know right now requires an amount of faith that some of us are just not ready to take the plunge. And so sometimes we make excuses. Sometimes we say, well, I don't feel like God has released me to move forward. When we know in our hearts that it's time. Or we will say, you know what, I think I haven't given my all here. I think I haven't given my 100%. And that's what I'm supposed to do, is give 100% in everything I do. And it's not that we're not supposed to do that. You're absolutely supposed to give 100% of you in everything that you do. But sometimes God just calls time. Sometimes bath time is over. And rather than fighting the current, and it's time to just say, okay, I'm going to come out and see what's on the other side of this. And I think that is the scariest thing there, is that we have this picture in our minds of what's on the other side. And a lot of times it's scary. And that's why we don't want to go. Sometimes this picture is of floods that are going to overtake us, or fire that's going to burn us up. And we're just like, I'm not ready to go there. I'm going to fight this water because I don't want to go in the fire. I'm going to fight this water because I don't want to be overcome by whatever the circumstance is. And so if I fight it, then I win. If the longer I hold myself back from going there, then I've won something. I've preserved myself for a little while longer. But sometimes when you really think about life, it's not about preserving yourself as much as it is about learning something new and moving forward. And you can't move forward if you're too busy fighting the past. So when I was thinking about this and really, kind of stuck on this, I just saw in my head, what came to my mind was like an overwhelming fear that happens. And the fear a lot of times is of this situation. Like, I'm going to end up in a bad situation. I'm going to end up in a furnace. I'm going to end up being, and it would be so awesome if we could all be as bold as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and say, you know what? My God can save me from the fire, but even if he doesn't, I'm still going to take a leap of faith. That's not all of us. We're not all there yet. But I want to share something with you that I strongly believe is the reason why those three could share what they did and stand the way that they did and move forward even when something scary was ahead of them. And I believe that that's found in Isaiah chapter 43. And I'm going to read this to you. I think that once we really get this in our heart, there's nothing that is too scary. There's no fire that we're afraid of that is too hot. There's no water that we're afraid of that we're going to be flooded by. There's nothing that can stop us from moving forward in faith once we get who God is and what he's really promised us in our hearts. And so that's what all I want to do for you today is kind of share where I feel like God is has taken me along this journey and really impressed in my heart. And that's, again, Isaiah 43. I'm reading it in the Message translation. It's a translation that I really love. But read it in whatever translation you have. I always encourage everybody to read these scriptures yourself. Don't just count on what I'm saying. Go ahead, read it. It's Daniel 3, Isaiah 43. And this is the promise. This is the promise that God gave me when I was sitting in a hospital bed, fighting, saying, God, I don't want to do this. This is the promise he gave me, and this is the reminder that I got this week as I saw that little struggle in a child's world. But now God's message. The God who made you in the first place, the one who got you started. Don't be afraid. I've redeemed you. I've called your name in your mind. When you're in over your head, I will be with you. When you're in rough waters, you will not go down. When you're between a rock and a hard place, it won't be a dead end. Because I am God, your personal Savior. I paid a huge price for you. That's how much you mean to me. That's how much I love you. I'd sell the whole world to get you back. I'd trade all the creation just for you. So don't be afraid. I'm with you. I'll round up all your scattered children. I'll pull them in from the east and the west, from the north and the south, and send them back to you. I'll return my sons from distant lands and my daughters from faraway places. I want everyone back. Yes, I personally formed you, and I made each one of you. So that's it. I think that when you really get that in your heart, and I'll just go back and read one thing that really stuck out to me, right? Is that this scripture, another translation says, when you walk through the fire, I will be with you. And when you're faced with a flood, it will not overcome you. And that's what really stuck out to me, right? It's because it's saying, but why? Why? It's not promising me that on the other side of this trial, this situation, this choice that I have to make, it's not promising me that on the other side I'm going to have peace or joy or perfection. It's saying that even though there might be fire over there, even though you might have to walk through it, even though you might have to go through some floods, you won't be alone. And the biggest part of this is because he loves you. That's how much you mean to me. That's how much I love you. I'd sell off the whole creation just to get you back. And that's really just what I want to leave with you with today. When you really get that in your heart and you understand that God doesn't put you in a situation to stress you out. The changes that are coming your way are not to hurt you. They're only to grow you. When you really get that in your heart and you realize that you're not going through those changes alone, because he's right there with you. When you get that in your heart and you realize, you know what, maybe I've got to let go of this relationship, but what's on the other side of this, whether I walk through fire or through flood, on the other side of this, I am not alone. Maybe it's the situation with your job that you're just unsure about, and you say, well, I want to move forward. Maybe it's a situation with your health like it was for me, where you're just like, you know what, I don't really know if I can take that choice, if I can make that jump. I still want to try a little bit more on my own. There is nothing on the other side of this journey, on the other side of this choice, that you're going to have to face alone. And not only are you not facing it alone, but you're facing it with the one who loves you more than anyone on this earth ever could. And he's promised never to leave you or forsake you. So that's all I want to share with you today, is that whatever you're facing, whatever your struggle, whatever the change is that's in your face that you just can't avoid anymore, know that if you stop fighting the water, you haven't given up. You're just stepping into your future, and you're stepping into the arms of a God who loves you. You are never alone. God bless you all. I hope you're doing really awesome. I look forward to hearing back from each and every one of you. I hope that you take the time to watch this, share this, and share your own thoughts and opinions as well. As you all know, I share from the Word of God because that's what gives me hope. That has been my life experience. But I welcome anybody who's sharing from, their own experience as well. On the other side of this choice that you have to make right now, there might be a fire, there might be a flood, but you will never ever face that alone. God bless.